Some doors are meant to keep people out. Others are meant to keep something in. And sometimes, the worst mistake you can make isn't opening a strange door. It's discovering that the door was never supposed to exist in the first place. Tonight, I'm going to tell you 3 fictional horror stories about doors that should never have been opened. 3 ordinary-looking doors, 3 impossible places, and 3 people who learned too late that some mysteries are better left unanswered. When Daniel took the night maintenance job at the Blackridge Hotel, he was told one thing on his first day: never go below basement level 2. The manager didn't explain why. Daniel assumed it was because the lower basement contained old electrical equipment and unstable pipes. He was wrong. The Blackridge was a massive hotel built in the 1930s. Most of the upper floors had been renovated, but the basement had remained almost untouched. There were rusted boilers, abandoned storage rooms, broken furniture, and corridors that seemed to lead nowhere. Daniel had worked there for almost 3 months without ever thinking about basement level 3. Then, one night, he heard knocking. 3 knocks. Slow, heavy, coming from somewhere beneath the hotel. Daniel froze. He listened. Nothing. Then, knock. 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 This time, it was louder. He followed the sound down the concrete staircase. At the bottom was a corridor he'd never seen before. At the very end stood a metal door. There was no handle, no window, no number, just a small black circle in the center. Daniel called the manager. The manager immediately told him to leave. "Don't touch that door," he said. Daniel asked what was behind it. The manager went silent. Then he whispered, "Nothing." The phone call ended. Daniel should have walked away. Instead, he stayed, because the knocking started again. 3 knocks, then a pause, then 3 more. Daniel placed his hand against the door. It was ice cold, and from the other side, he heard something breathing. He stepped back. The breathing stopped. Then a voice whispered his name. "Daniel." He ran. The next morning, he asked another employee about the basement. The employee looked frightened. He told Daniel that decades earlier, workers had discovered an unfinished corridor beneath the hotel. They tried breaking through the door. Behind it was another hallway. They followed the hallway for almost 50 meters before finding another identical door, and behind that door, another hallway. The workers eventually sealed the entire area. Daniel promised himself he would never return, but 3 nights later, the hotel's power failed. Daniel was sent downstairs to restart the emergency generator. As he passed basement level 2, he noticed something. The sealed staircase was open, and the door at the bottom was waiting, except now, it had a handle. Daniel knew he should call someone. Instead, he opened it. Beyond the door was a long hotel corridor. It looked exactly like the Blackridge. Same carpet, same wallpaper, same lamps. But every room number was wrong. Daniel walked forward. Room 101, then 102, then 103. He passed room after room until he saw something that made his blood run cold. Room 217, his own room. Daniel worked at the hotel, but employees were given rooms on the 4th floor. He slowly opened the door. Inside was his bedroom. His clothes were hanging in the closet. His phone was sitting on the table. Even his wallet was there. But Daniel was standing outside. Then his phone rang. The sound came from inside the room. Daniel stared at it. The screen displayed his own number. He answered. For several seconds, there was only static. Then he heard his own voice. "Don't turn around!" Daniel stopped breathing. Something was standing behind him. He could feel its presence. A hand slowly touched his shoulder. Daniel ran. He sprinted through the corridor, through the strange door, and back into the basement. The metal door slammed behind him. When he reached the stairs, he looked back. The door was gone. Only a concrete wall remained. Daniel quit the next morning. The hotel was demolished years later. But according to the demolition crew, there was one strange thing they found beneath the foundation: a single metal door. No room behind it, no corridor, just a door. And on the other side, someone was knocking. 3 times, slowly. Ethan noticed the door on his first night. He had just moved into an old apartment building in the city. The building was cheap, quiet, and badly maintained. Perfect for someone trying to save money. His apartment was on the 4th floor. There was one strange detail. Between apartment 406 and 407 was a narrow wooden door. Ethan assumed it belonged to another apartment, But when he asked the landlord, the man frowned. What door? Ethan pointed toward the hallway. The landlord stared at the wall. There was nothing there, just a blank section of faded wallpaper. Ethan laughed nervously. The landlord didn't. Don't talk about that door, he said. That night, Ethan woke up at 2:13 a.m. Someone was knocking. 3 times. Knock, knock, knock. He sat up. The sound came from the hallway. Ethan opened his apartment door. The wooden door was there, clearly visible. He approached it. The knocking stopped. Then came another sound. A voice. Ethan. He stepped backward. The voice sounded exactly like him. He returned to his apartment and locked the door. The next morning, the door was gone. For several days, Ethan convinced himself he had imagined it. Then, one evening, he heard the knocking again. This time, it came from inside his apartment. Knock, knock, knock. He checked the bedroom. Nothing. The bathroom. Nothing. Then he noticed the sound was coming from the wall, the same wall where the mysterious door had appeared. He moved closer. Knock. Knock, knock. Ethan placed his ear against the wall. Someone whispered, "Let me out." He immediately called the landlord. The landlord arrived 20 minutes later. When he saw the door, all the color disappeared from his face. "I told you not to talk about it." Ethan demanded an explanation. The landlord finally admitted that apartment 0 had once existed. It had been built between 2 apartments, but the room was removed from the building plans after something happened there. What happened? The landlord refused to answer. Ethan opened the door. Behind it was a dark apartment, his apartment. Exactly. Same furniture, same photographs, same clothes, but everything was covered in dust. On the table was a newspaper. Ethan picked it up. The headline made his stomach drop. Local man disappears inside apartment. The photograph underneath was him. Same face, same clothes, same apartment. The date on the newspaper was 3 years in the future. Ethan dropped it. Then he heard footsteps behind him. He turned. The apartment was empty, but a bedroom door slowly opened. Someone stepped out. It was Ethan. Another Ethan. The duplicate looked exhausted. His face was covered in scratches. He stared at the real Ethan. "You finally opened it." Ethan couldn't move. The duplicate whispered, "Now I can leave." The lights went out. Ethan screamed. When the landlord turned the lights back on, the strange apartment was gone. So was the door. Ethan was standing alone in the hallway. He moved out the next morning, but 3 years later, the police received a missing person report. Ethan had disappeared from his apartment without leaving any evidence. The only thing they found was a newspaper lying on his kitchen table. The headline read, "Local man disappears inside apartment." And beneath it was a photograph of Ethan, standing beside a mysterious wooden door. The forest was supposed to be empty. That was why Marcus and 3 friends went there. They wanted to explore an area that had been abandoned for decades. No houses, no roads, no electricity, nothing. But 3 hours into the hike, they found a door. It stood upright in the middle of the forest. No wall, no building, just a wooden door surrounded by trees. Marcus laughed. One of his friends assumed it was part of an old cabin that had collapsed, but there were no remains of a cabin anywhere. The door looked new, perfectly preserved. The handle was polished brass, and someone had carved 4 names into the wood: Marcus, Ryan, Lucas, and Daniel. The names of the 4 men standing in front of it. Nobody spoke. Then someone knocked from the other side. 3 times. Knock. Knock, knock. Ryan stepped backward. "Let's leave." Marcus agreed. But then a voice came from behind the door. "Ryan?" Ryan froze. It was his mother's voice. His mother had been dead for 6 years. Ryan slowly approached. The voice came again. "Ryan, please." Marcus grabbed his arm. "Don't." The forest became completely silent. No birds, no insects, not even wind. Ryan opened the door. Beyond it was another forest, but the trees were different. The sky was dark, and standing between the trees were several people. People who looked familiar. One was Ryan's mother. Another was Lucas's missing brother. Then Marcus saw someone he recognized. His father. He had disappeared when Marcus was 12. Marcus stepped toward the doorway. His father smiled. "Come home." Marcus almost entered. Then he noticed something. His father's feet weren't touching the ground. They were hanging several inches above it. Marcus slammed the door shut. Everyone ran. They didn't stop until they reached their campsite, but the door was already there, standing beside their tents. Nobody had carried it. It had followed them. They moved again. The door appeared again. Every time they tried to escape, it was closer. Eventually, they abandoned their equipment and ran toward the main road. Only Marcus and Lucas made it. Ryan disappeared. Daniel disappeared. The police searched the forest for days. They found nothing. Years passed. Marcus tried to forget what happened. Until one winter morning, he found something standing outside his house. The wooden door. The same door from the forest. Marcus stared at it through his window. Then someone knocked. 3 times. Knock, knock, knock. He didn't open it. The knocking continued. Then a voice whispered from the other side. Marcus? His father's voice. Marcus covered his ears. But the voice became louder. Come home. Marcus never opened the door. The next morning, it was gone. But a week later, a photograph appeared on his kitchen table. It showed Marcus standing in the forest beside the door. There was one problem. The photograph had been taken the day after he found the door at his house, and behind him, standing in the trees, were Ryan and Daniel, both staring directly at the camera. Marcus never saw them again. But every year, on the same date, someone leaves 3 muddy footprints outside his front door. And every time, there are 3 knocks, 3 doors, 3 impossible places, and 3 people who discovered the same terrifying truth. Some doors aren't hiding rooms. They're hiding something that wants to come through. So if you ever find a door where a door shouldn't be, don't knock, don't listen, and whatever you do, don't open it. Because the thing waiting on the other side might already know your name. If you enjoyed these fictional nightmares, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. Would you open the door?